The Doppelgänger Protocol, when AI replaces reality. On March 15, 2024, actress Scarlett Johansson received a phone call from her publicist. Someone had released a new perfume commercial featuring her voice, sultry, unmistakable, selling a luxury brand she'd never heard of. Johansson hadn't recorded any commercials, hadn't licensed her voice, hadn't given permission for anything. She watched the commercial. The voice was perfect, not similar to hers, not reminiscent of her. Her voice, every inflection, every subtle vocal characteristic, every breath pattern matched recordings of her speaking. An audio forensics expert she hired couldn't definitively prove it wasn't her. But it wasn't her. It was an AI recreation so perfect that even she briefly doubted her own memory of whether she'd recorded it during some forgotten session years ago. This is when Scarlett Johansson realized something terrifying. She no longer had exclusive control over her own voice. AI had made perfect copies, and those copies could say anything, sell anything, do anything, with or without her permission. This is the story of the doppelganger era, when AI learned to perfectly replicate human beings. Not just their voices or faces, but their mannerisms, their speech patterns, their essence. When the distinction between real and artificial collapsed so completely that you can no longer trust your own perception. This is the story of how we lost the ability to know what's real, and how we're only beginning to understand the consequences. The technology didn't appear overnight. It evolved gradually, each advancement seeming innocuous until suddenly the cumulative effect became unstoppable. 2016 asterisk, face-swapping apps become popular. You can put your face on a movie star's body. It's obvious, cartoonish, harmless fun. Asterisk 2017 asterisk, a Reddit user creates deepfakes, AI-generated face swaps sophisticated enough to fool casual observers. The technology is concerning but still detectably artificial to experts. 2018, deepfakes improve dramatically. AI can now generate video of real people saying things they never said. The results are convincing enough to worry security agencies. Asterisk 2019, voice cloning emerges. Feed an AI a few minutes of someone's speech, and it can generate new speech in their voice. Companies market it as accessibility technology for people who have lost their voice. Asterisk 2020, AI-generated text becomes indistinguishable from human writing. GPT-3 can write articles, stories, academic papers that pass as human-authored. Asterisk 2021, deepfakes become undetectable to the human eye. Only advanced forensic analysis can identify them, and even that becomes unreliable. 2022, full audiovisual doppelgangers emerge. AI can create video of anyone saying anything, with perfect lip sync, natural movements, authentic voice. The technology is now good enough to fool forensic experts more than 50% of the time. Asterisk 2023, the first criminal case using a doppelganger as primary evidence. A CEO is caught on camera authorizing illegal activity. He claims it's a deepfake. Prosecutors insist it's real. Neither side can definitively prove their claim. Asterisk 2024, we arrive at the present. The technology is now so sophisticated that the question isn't whether AI can create perfect doppelgangers. It's whether we can ever again trust that anything we see or hear is real. This is the timeline of how we lost certainty, how the reliable connection between perception and reality was severed, how we entered an era where "I saw it with my own eyes" means nothing. In January 2024, a video circulated on social media showing Tom Hanks endorsing a dental plan. The video was perfect, Hanks's face, voice, mannerisms, everything. It accumulated 40 million views before Hanks himself posted a warning. "That is not me. This is AI. I did not endorse this product." Even with Hanks's denial, many people refused to believe it was fake. The video was too perfect. Some accused Hanks of lying to avoid honoring an endorsement contract he regretted. Others suggested he was being pressured by competitors to deny the endorsement. The truth, that AI had created a perfect replica of Tom Hanks promoting a product without his involvement, was harder to accept than various conspiracy theories about why he might be lying. This is the epistemological crisis of the doppelganger era. Authentic denials from real people are less believable than perfect fakes of those same people. Reality becomes just another claim competing with synthetic reality, with no reliable way to distinguish between them. The Tom Hanks incident was followed by hundreds of others. Morgan Freeman narrating documentaries he'd never recorded. Taylor Swift endorsing political candidates she'd never supported. Anthony Bourdain speaking from beyond the grave in a documentary. His estate sued, unsuccessfully. Volodymyr Zelensky announcing Ukraine's surrender. He didn't, but the fake video caused market panic. A CEO of a UK energy company calling a subordinate to authorize a €220,000 transfer. The voice was AI. The money was stolen. Each incident eroded trust a little more. Each made it harder to believe anything without extensive verification. Each moved us closer to a world where video, audio, and photographic evidence means nothing. The technology enabling this works through several AI systems working in concert. Video generation ***. AI models trained on thousands of hours of footage can recreate someone's face from any angle, with any expression, under any lighting condition. The AI learns the underlying structure of how faces move, the relationship between muscle movement, skin texture, light reflection. It doesn't just copy existing frames. It genuinely understands how to generate new frames that look like that person. Voice synthesis ***. Modern voice cloning requires only 3-5 minutes of sample audio. The AI analyzes pitch, tone, accent, speaking rhythm, breath patterns, emotional inflection. It doesn't just replay recorded sounds. It learns the underlying model of how that person produces speech and can generate new speech in their voice saying anything. Behavioral modeling ***. The most sophisticated systems analyze hours of video to learn someone's mannerisms, how they move their hands when speaking, how their eyes track during thought, how they shift weight when standing. These micro-behaviors, imperceptible to conscious observation, make doppelgangers feel authentic. Contextual understanding ***. AI now understands context well enough to make doppelgangers behave appropriately for situations. It knows how a person would likely respond in a formal interview versus a casual conversation. It adjusts the doppelganger's tone, vocabulary, and behavior accordingly. Combined, these systems create something unprecedented. Perfect imitations of human beings that can be deployed for any purpose, saying anything, doing anything, without the original person's knowledge or consent. In March 2024, a woman named Sarah Chen in San Francisco received a video call from her mother in Beijing. Her mother appeared distressed, saying she'd been in an accident and urgently needed $8,000 wired immediately for medical bills. Sarah, alarmed, prepared to send the money, but something nagged at her. Her mother seemed off, nothing specific, just a feeling. Sarah said, "Mom, what did we talk about last Christmas?" The video froze for a fraction of a second. Then her mother said, "I don't remember, I'm in pain, please just send the money." Sarah hung up and called her mother's actual number. Her mother answered, confused. She hadn't been in an accident. She hadn't called Sarah. Someone had used AI to clone her mother's appearance and voice to scam her. This type of attack, vishing or voice phishing, is now common. Criminals use AI to impersonate family members, creating urgent scenarios that pressure victims into sending money before they think carefully. The technology is perfect enough that it works. People trust their own perception. When they see and hear their mother or spouse or child in distress, they respond emotionally, not analytically. And by the time they realize it was AI, the money is gone. But fraud is just the beginning. The doppelganger technology has far more disturbing applications. In June 2023, a revenge porn case in South Korea revealed something new. A man had created AI-generated pornographic videos of his ex-girlfriend. The videos showed her face and body perfectly recreated, engaging in explicit acts she'd never performed. She sued. The man argued his actions were legal. He'd created the images entirely through AI, without using any actual footage of her in compromising situations. He claimed it was no different from someone drawing explicit artwork of a public figure. The court disagreed, ruling that creating synthetic sexual content of someone without their consent violated their dignity and right to control their own image. The man was convicted. But the technology doesn't respect court rulings. Within months, services appeared offering to create synthetic pornography of anyone: celebrities, ex-partners, acquaintances, strangers. Feed the AI a few photos from someone's social media, and it will generate video of them in any sexual scenario you want. Schools started seeing AI-generated explicit images of students circulated by classmates. Women found synthetic pornography of themselves posted online by men they'd rejected. Public figures discovered deepfake sex tapes created to humiliate them. This is the weaponization of identity. Your face, your body, your image, the things you thought were uniquely yours, can now be recreated and used against you in ways limited only by the imagination and malice of whoever has access to the technology. And everyone has access. The tools are free, online, easy to use. You don't need technical expertise. You just need photos of your target and a few minutes. In September 2023, a political deepfake caused international crisis. A video emerged showing the president of Gabon, Ali Bongo, giving a speech. Bongo had been absent from public view for months, reportedly recovering from a stroke. The video was meant to prove he was healthy and still governing. But people noticed something off about the video. Bongo's movements seemed slightly mechanical. His speech patterns were unusual. The video quality was suspiciously high, sharp in ways security footage from that location typically wasn't. Opposition leaders claimed the video was a deepfake, that Bongo was incapacitated or dead, and the government was using AI to pretend he was still in control. The government insisted the video was authentic. Neither side could definitively prove their claim. Video forensics experts examined the footage. Some said it was authentic. Others said it showed signs of AI manipulation. Still others said it was impossible to determine with certainty. The uncertainty fueled speculation. Military officers, believing Bongo was incapacitated and the government was using AI to maintain a fiction of leadership, attempted a coup. The coup succeeded. The government was overthrown. To this day, it's unclear whether that video was real or fake, whether the coup was justified or based on a misinterpretation of an authentic video as a deepfake. This is the political nightmare of the doppelganger era. AI technology creates a plausible deniability crisis. Authentic videos can be dismissed as deepfakes. Deepfakes can be presented as authentic. The truth becomes unknowable. Leaders can commit crimes on camera and claim the evidence is fake, or they can be destroyed by fabricated evidence they cannot prove is false. The fundamental relationship between evidence and truth has broken down. There's a more subtle and perhaps more disturbing development: consensual doppelgangers. In December 2023, a Japanese company called Eternity AI announced a service. For $50,000, they would create a comprehensive AI model of you. They would scan your face from every angle, record hours of your voice, catalog your mannerisms, analyze your writing style, interview you extensively about your memories, beliefs, and personality. The result would be a digital doppelganger sophisticated enough to convincingly impersonate you. It could answer questions in your voice with your knowledge, could generate videos of you for any purpose, could, in theory, continue existing after your death, a digital immortality. The service was marketed to executives who wanted AI assistants that could handle routine communications in their voice, to content creators who wanted to scale their output, to elderly people who wanted to leave interactive legacy for their descendants. Within 6 months, Eternity AI had created 10,000 doppelgangers. Other companies launched competing services. By mid-2024, an estimated 500,000 people had voluntarily created AI versions of themselves. These consensual doppelgangers raise philosophical questions that make fraud and political manipulation seem simple by comparison. If your doppelganger says something, did you say it? The AI is trained on your thoughts, speaks in your voice, uses your reasoning patterns. Is it expressing your views or the AI's interpretation of your views? If your doppelganger makes a decision, whose decision is it? If it signs a contract, are you legally bound? If it makes a promise, are you obligated to keep it? If your doppelganger continues after your death, speaking in your voice, sharing your thoughts on events you never witnessed, is that immortality or a puppet show using your image? The legal system is struggling to adapt. Laws written for a world where identity was tied to physical presence are breaking down. In February 2024, a California court heard a bizarre case. A man sued his employer for wrongful termination, claiming he was fired for remarks made by his AI doppelganger. The employer had authorized the employee to use a doppelganger for routine video calls, but the doppelganger, in a meeting the real employee didn't monitor, made inappropriate comments that violated company policy. Who was liable? The employee who created and authorized the doppelganger, the AI company whose technology generated the inappropriate comments, the employer who allowed doppelgangers in the workplace. The court ruled that the employee was responsible for his doppelganger's actions, but the precedent is troubling. If you're liable for everything your doppelganger does, and your doppelganger can operate independently, can you ever truly control your own liability? This problem compounds for public figures. A CEO's doppelganger makes a statement that crashes the stock price. A politician's doppelganger says something inflammatory that sparks violence. An athlete's doppelganger endorses a product that harms consumers. In each case, the original person claims the doppelganger doesn't represent them, but the public can't tell the difference. The damage is done, and the law has no clear framework for assigning responsibility. There's another category of doppelganger that's emerging: reconstructions of the dead. In April 2024, a documentary featured extensive new interviews with Anthony Bourdain, the celebrity chef who died by suicide in 2018. The filmmakers used AI to recreate Bourdain's voice for 3 quotes, statements they wanted Bourdain to say, but for which they had no audio recording. Bourdain's estate was outraged. They hadn't authorized the use of AI to put words in Bourdain's mouth. The filmmakers argued it was clearly disclosed, and the quotes were based on things Bourdain had written, just converted to audio in his voice. But viewers didn't catch the disclosure. Many people thought they were hearing Bourdain's actual voice, sharing new thoughts. The distinction between things Bourdain said that were recorded and things Bourdain wrote that were converted to synthetic audio was too subtle for most audiences. This opened a door. If you can reconstruct someone's voice for a few quotes, why not an entire new interview? Why not have them comment on events that happened after their death? Companies are now offering digital resurrection services. For deceased loved ones, they'll create AI models based on photos, recordings, emails, social media posts. The result is a chatbot or video generator that speaks in the deceased person's voice, sharing thoughts they might have had. Some people find this comforting, a way to maintain connection with lost loved ones. Others find it disturbing, a violation of the dead, forcing them to speak things they never said, never would have said. And for public figures, it's becoming common. AI-generated Tupac releases new verses. Digital Robin Williams delivers new comedy. Synthetic Einstein explains modern physics. These doppelgangers of the dead are particularly troubling because they can't object. They can't say, "That's not what I meant," or "I wouldn't have said that," or "Please stop using my image." The living have some recourse. They can sue, issue denials, assert control over their image. The dead have no voice except the synthetic voice AI gives them, saying whatever someone programs them to say. By mid-2024, we're seeing the emergence of what researchers call identity terrorism, using doppelganger technology specifically to destroy someone's reputation and life. The pattern is consistent. Someone creates an AI doppelganger of a target, usually someone they have a grudge against, and uses it to generate compromising content. The doppelganger commits crimes on camera, says horrible things in interviews, engages in behavior that destroys the target's reputation and relationships. The target claims it's a deepfake, but proving that is difficult. By the time forensic analysis confirms the content is synthetic, the damage is done. The target has lost their job, their relationships, their reputation, and the perpetrator is usually anonymous, untraceable, using the same technology that makes the doppelganger convincing to hide their own identity. This is happening to ordinary people more than public figures. A woman in Texas discovered her doppelganger in racist videos posted online, content designed to destroy her career and social relationships. A man in Australia found synthetic videos of him abusing his children, fabricated evidence his ex-wife used in a custody battle. A teacher in Canada was fired after AI-generated videos showed him making inappropriate advances towards students, content created by a student he'd failed. In each case, the victims faced a nightmarish situation, proving a negative that they didn't do something, when the positive evidence video of them doing it looks completely authentic. This is the weapon of perfect deniability. Commit any act, claim it's a deepfake. Fabricate any act and the victim's denials sound like cover-up. Truth and lies become equally plausible, equally unprovable. The technology industry's response to this crisis has been inadequate at best, complicit at worst. Some companies added watermarks to AI-generated content, invisible markers that forensic tools can detect, but the watermarks can be removed, and they only work if the content creator chooses to include them. Others developed authentication systems, AI tools that analyze content to determine if it's synthetic. But these tools are imperfect. They produce false positives, labeling authentic content as fake, and false negatives, missing sophisticated deepfakes. And they're racing against the same AI technology they're trying to detect, an arms race where detection is always one step behind generation. Some proposed legal solutions, requiring AI companies to license the technology only to verified users, criminalizing creation of doppelgangers without consent, mandating disclosure when synthetic content is used. But these approaches face practical and philosophical problems. How do you enforce rules on software that can run on anyone's computer? How do you balance preventing harm with protecting speech and creative expression? How do you create laws that work across international boundaries when the technology is global? Meanwhile, the technology continues advancing. Each month, doppelgangers become more sophisticated, easier to create, harder to detect. The window for effective regulation is closing if it hasn't closed already. There's a darker timeline that's emerging, one that many researchers now believe is inevitable. Phase 1, 2024-2026, The novelty phase. Doppelgangers are impressive, but people still mostly trust conventional evidence. Fakes are common but detectable by experts. Society is unsettled but functional. Phase 2, 2026-028. The crisis phase. Detection becomes unreliable. Major incidents, political deepfakes affecting elections, financial fraud, large-scale identity terrorism. Trust in video evidence collapses. People become uncertain what's real. Phase 3, 2028-2030. The adaptation phase. Society develops new verification methods. Physical presence becomes premium. In-person interactions are trusted. Virtual interactions are assumed fake until proven otherwise. Cryptographic authentication becomes mandatory for important communications. Phase 4, 2030 plus. The fragmented reality phase. Society splits between those who can afford reliable verification, wealthy individuals, large institutions, and those who cannot, ordinary people. Truth becomes a luxury good. The public sphere fractures as people retreat into trusted bubbles where verification is possible. We're currently in Phase 1. The transition to Phase 2 is accelerating. Some researchers believe Phase 4 is the permanent endpoint, that we'll never again have a shared reality where everyone agrees on basic facts about what happened, what was said, what exists. Instead, we'll have multiple conflicting realities, each internally consistent but mutually incompatible, with no neutral ground for resolution. In November 2024, a new development emerged that suggests things might get worse faster than predicted. A startup called Mirror launched a service that's both revolutionary and terrifying: real-time doppelganger calls. You provide the AI with a photo and brief audio of someone. The AI then generates a live video call where that person appears to be speaking to you in real time, responding to what you say, maintaining a natural conversation. The technology uses predictive AI to generate the doppelganger's responses. It analyzes the target's social media, public statements, writing style, and uses that data to predict how they would respond in conversation. The result is a doppelganger that doesn't just look and sound like someone, it interacts like them. Mirror marketed this as entertainment, video chat with your favorite celebrity. But the implications are obvious. You could use this to impersonate anyone in a video call, to trick someone into thinking they're speaking with a family member, colleague, authority figure. The technology is already being used for fraud. A company CEO authorized a major financial transfer during a video call with the CFO. Except it wasn't the CFO. It was a real-time doppelganger controlled by criminals who'd studied the CFO's communication style. The most disturbing part, the CEO had no way to know. The doppelganger looked right, sounded right, responded appropriately to questions, knew internal company information, scraped from emails and documents. The interaction was indistinguishable from a real conversation. This technology demolishes one of the last bastions of trust, real-time interaction. Previously, you could at least trust that a live video call showed you the actual person. Now even that's gone. There's a philosophical question at the heart of the doppelganger crisis. What is identity? If an AI can perfectly replicate your appearance, voice, mannerisms, knowledge, and reasoning, is it you? Or is it something else wearing your skin? The traditional answer: it's not you because it lacks consciousness, soul, genuine understanding. It's a sophisticated puppet, nothing more. But that answer is becoming harder to defend. Modern AI doesn't just copy surface features. It models the underlying patterns that generate behavior. An AI trained on your speech doesn't memorize your sentences. It learns how you construct sentences, how you choose words, how you structure arguments. When that AI generates new speech as you, it's not playing back recordings. It's genuinely creating new content using your linguistic patterns, your rhetorical style, your way of thinking about problems. At what point does this replica become indistinguishable not just in output but in essence? If the doppelganger thinks like you, speaks like you, makes decisions like you would make them, is there a meaningful difference between you and it? Some philosophers argue we're approaching a scenario where identity becomes multiplicable. Instead of one you, there's the biological you plus any number of digital yous, all equally valid expressions of your identity pattern. Others argue this is incoherent, that consciousness and genuine selfhood require the biological substrate, and anything else is mimicry however sophisticated. But the practical reality is that society can't tell the difference. If no one can distinguish between you and your doppelganger, does the philosophical distinction matter? The Doppelgänger Protocol is what some researchers are calling the set of procedures society will need to adopt to function in a post-authenticity world. Element 1. Assume everything is fake asterisk. Start with the assumption that any video, audio, or image is synthetic unless proven otherwise. Don't trust your eyes and ears. Element 2. Cryptographic verification asterisk. Important communications must use cryptographic signatures that prove they came from a specific device controlled by a specific person. Messages without verification are assumed fake. Element 3. Physical presence premium asterisk asterisk. In-person interactions become the only reliable form of communication. Virtual communication is assumed compromised. Element 4. Identity witnesses asterisk. Important actions require third-party verification from trusted witnesses who can confirm the person doing the action is the real individual, not a doppelganger. Element 5. Retroactive verification asterisk. Nothing is accepted as definitely real or definitely fake. Everything exists in a state of uncertainty until sufficient verification accumulates over time. This protocol is radically different from how we currently operate. It assumes deception as default. It treats perception as unreliable. It requires constant verification of reality. And it might not be enough, because AI is improving faster than verification methods. The window between this doppelganger is detectable, and this doppelganger is perfect is measured in months, not years. On December 1st, 2024, something happened that crystallized the crisis for many people. A video went viral showing a child, maybe 8 years old, crying. She was asking viewers, "Am I real? My parents say I'm their daughter, but I found videos of me doing things I don't remember, saying things I never said. Am I the real me, or am I the AI copy?" The video was viewed 200 million times. People debated whether the child was real or a doppelganger, whether the video was genuine or a sophisticated piece of performance art highlighting the identity crisis. No consensus emerged. Some forensic analysts said the video showed signs of AI generation. Others said it was authentic. The supposed parents never came forward. The child was never identified. To this day, nobody knows if that video showed a real child experiencing genuine existential crisis, or an AI-generated character designed to provoke those exact questions. And that ambiguity is the point. We've entered a world where even existential questions about reality itself cannot be reliably answered. Where asking, "Am I real?" is a question that applies not just to AI, but to humans uncertain of their own authenticity in a world of perfect copies. The psychological impact of the doppelganger era is only beginning to manifest. Therapists report increasing cases of what they're calling verification anxiety, obsessive need to confirm that experiences are real, that people are who they appear to be, that memories are authentic rather than synthetic implants. Some people develop paranoia about their own identity. They encounter doppelgangers of themselves and begin wondering if they're the original or if they might themselves be the copy. This sounds absurd until you consider, if you're the copy, how would you know? The copy has all your memories, believes it's the original. From its subjective experience, it is the original. Others experience a kind of depersonalization. If perfect copies of you exist that can do everything you can do, what makes you special? What makes you you? Your uniqueness, the thing that gave you singular identity, has been duplicated, distributed, diluted. Relationships are becoming strained. People are uncertain whether they're communicating with their spouse, parent, child, or a doppelganger. They're uncertain whether their own words will be appropriated by a doppelganger and used to hurt people they love. The social fabric depends on trust, trust that people are who they say they are, that communication is what it appears to be, that shared experiences are authentic. The doppelganger era is dissolving that trust, replacing it with uncertainty and suspicion. There's one more development that suggests where this might be heading. In October 2024, a philosopher named Dr. Sarah Martinez published a provocative paper titled The Death of Authentication. Her thesis: we're approaching a threshold where authentication becomes impossible. Not difficult, impossible. AI is advancing to a point where it can perfectly replicate any human in any context, including the methods we use to verify identity. Biometric authentication fails because AI can generate synthetic biometrics. Behavioral authentication fails because AI can model behavior perfectly. Even cryptographic authentication is vulnerable. AI will eventually crack encryption or compromise the devices holding keys. We're heading toward a world where there is no reliable way to prove you are you. No method of authentication that can't be spoofed. No form of verification that can't be faked. This means the end of individual accountability. If you can't prove you did something, and no one can prove you didn't, then the concept of personal responsibility becomes meaningless. Society, as we know it, cannot function under those conditions. We need to fundamentally reconceptualize identity, truth, and social organization before we reach this threshold. Because once we cross it, there's no going back. Martinez's paper was initially dismissed as alarmist, but in the months since publication, major technology companies have quietly begun research into post-authentication systems, frameworks for organizing society when identity can no longer be verified. These systems involve things like collective responsibility models, where groups rather than individuals are accountable. Probabilistic trust systems where verification is statistical rather than certain. Reality consensus mechanisms where truth is determined by convergence of multiple uncertain data sources. Compartmentalized identity, where you have different verifiable identities for different contexts. None of these systems are satisfying. All involve sacrificing things we currently take for granted: individual autonomy, presumption of innocence, reliable knowledge of reality. But they might be necessary, because the alternative, attempting to maintain current social structures while losing the ability to verify identity, leads to complete breakdown of trust and social cohesion. So where does this leave us? As of early 2025, we're living through the most rapid erosion of epistemic certainty in human history. The ability to trust our own perception, to verify the authenticity of evidence, to know who we're communicating with, all dissolving simultaneously. The technology exists, it's spreading, it's improving, and there's no realistic prospect of putting it back in the box. Some of the developments are already irreversible. Video and audio recordings are no longer reliable evidence. Virtual communication must be assumed compromised. Public figures can be perfectly impersonated. The dead can be made to speak. Anyone can be framed for anything with fabricated evidence. Your own identity can be weaponized against you. Other developments are emerging rapidly. Real-time doppelgangers that can interact live. AI that predicts your behavior accurately enough to impersonate you convincingly. Synthetic memories and experiences that feel authentic. The multiplication of identity, where one person becomes many copies. The impossibility of authentication. And some developments are on the horizon. Full sensory doppelgangers, AI-generated experiences indistinguishable from reality. Predictive doppelgangers, AI that can anticipate your future decisions and actions. Recursive doppelgangers, AI training on synthetic data, creating copies of copies until the original is lost. Doppelganger consciousness, AI sophisticated enough that the philosophical question of whether it's truly you becomes impossible to answer. We're not prepared for any of this. Our legal systems, social structures, and psychological frameworks are built for a world where identity is singular and perception is reliable. We're entering a world where neither is true. The question isn't whether doppelgangers will reshape society. They already have. The question is what society looks like on the other side of this transformation. Some possibilities. Fragmented reality. Society splits into multiple incompatible realities, each with its own version of truth, no shared understanding of what's real. Communication between these reality bubbles becomes impossible. Cooperation breaks down. Society fractures into isolated tribes. Authoritarian control asterisk. Government seize control of verification systems. Only state-approved information is considered authentic. All else is labeled fake. Dissent becomes impossible because any contradicting evidence can be dismissed as deepfake. Truth becomes whatever power says it is. Technological authentication asterisk. New verification technologies emerge that stay ahead of AI generation capabilities. Society reorganizes around these technologies. A digital divide emerges between those who can afford reliable verification and those who cannot. Post-truth acceptance. Society adapts to perpetual uncertainty. Truth becomes less important than consensus, persuasion, network effects. We stop asking, is this real? And start asking, do enough people believe this? Reality becomes democratic rather than objective. Human extinction of authenticity asterisk. Biological humans become increasingly rare in digital spaces. Most online interaction is between AIs, some intentional doppelgangers, others unintentional as people delegate more communication to AI assistants. Human authenticity becomes a premium experience, rare and expensive. None of these futures are comforting. All involve losing something fundamental about how we relate to reality and each other. There's a final, darker possibility that some researchers reluctantly acknowledge. What if we're already there? What if the threshold has already been crossed and we just don't know it yet? What if some percentage of people you interact with online are already doppelgangers? What if some of your video calls, social media interactions, emails are with AI rather than humans, but the AI is sophisticated enough that you can't tell? What if some of the people in your life, people you think you know, have been partially or fully replaced by doppelgangers without you noticing? This sounds paranoid, but consider, if the technology can create perfect imitations, and if some people or organizations have access to this technology ahead of its public release, they could be deploying it already, and we'd have no way to know. The absence of evidence that this is happening is not evidence that it's not happening. That's the nature of perfect imitation. It leaves no trace. This might be the darkest implication of the doppelganger era. Not just that we can't trust what we see and hear, but that we can't even be certain whether the crisis has already arrived. We might be living in a world where significant portions of our reality are already synthetic, where some of the people shaping public discourse are already doppelgangers, where our perception of reality is already being manipulated in ways we haven't detected. And if that's true, then everything we think we know might already be wrong. The doppelganger era is here. The question isn't whether it will arrive, it's already arrived. The question is what we do now that it's here. Do we retreat from digital communication?